Hello guys, and I would like to introduce with a new featured videos and which is called Walk and Talk with Alexandra. Even though we are not walking at the moment, but most probably I can take you once in a tour over the Copenhagen. Just give me a hands up if you or thumbs up if you want to see the Copenhagen and also talk with me. But I decided to be myself a little bit here. And for those who are not subscribed yet, please subscribe to this channel. I'm talking a lot about the compliance, about the international career, and also about how I am building myself in the compliance. And of course, also I'm giving a lot of tips and my mistakes, like a real life example that you can never find in ChatGPT and any other Claude or Perplexity or any other chatbot that you're using. Yes, let's start with 5 mistakes that I definitely made or even continue some of them. That's why I made this look throughout my career. For those who don't know me, I am originally moved from the Central Asia to Denmark, to Copenhagen. I live in Copenhagen. I live and work in Scandinavia. I am absolutely not evangelist of Scandinavian style, so I only know from my experience. So that's why, of course, I would be glad to hear your comments and notes that you would leave if you are interested in. But I'm trying to really, really develop this channel, and I would be really glad to see your some comments and questions if you have any. The mistake number 1 that I believed that the certificate would make me very, relevant and would build my international career. When I lived in the Central Asia, I, of course, was already gaining some of the certificates, such as Certified Internal Audit, SCCA, CISA, CRMA. I have plenty of those. And that was a kind of like, picking up the berries in the forest. So I was just collecting them. Of course, they gave me a lot of knowledge. They somehow structured my way of thinking. They gave me international credentials. I don't want to somehow jeopardize and depreciate this. But what I want to say that when you move from one country to another, it doesn't give you that much kick. Of course, it's very nicely written in your CV as a line. But to my experience, at least in Europe here, it's not that many people do have those certifications. And there are only few people who can really cherish, understand, and really appreciate your credentials. Sometimes it's even being neglected. And I'm still figuring out whether it's being toxic. If you don't have certificates by yourself, you're always being toxic towards people who do have it. I think it's it is pretty like this kind of way. I'm not saying that everyone is toxic, but there is like human nature, But coming back to the topic that I'm discussing, so I was thinking I collect enough qualifications because, of course, none of us are holding the credentials from the well-known universities. And this is somehow like, okay, I prove myself with the international credentials, with the international diploma, so take me. But they never helped me to build up the career. I don't know, it's very difficult for me to evaluate how much they impacted, how much they helped me, but there is no like a real track record that they helped me. It's nice to say it. For instance, when I was working for Deloitte Denmark, there were very few people who had that, even like partners in the audit, but then I did have those credentials. So it was just somehow pleasing my ego. That's it. With this, I'm not trying to say do not get the certifications. You should. But I also want to say that don't put that much emphasis on that. Don't expect that you will get the job because you do have the certificate. And we sometimes tend to hide our imposter syndrome behind the certificates, and we are trying to get them more and more to prove ourselves that we're worth it. This is also a little bit psychology, but you should always ask yourself, what for I'm doing it? Why should I do this? Am I just doing it for myself? Am I doing it because I can see the value in this? And it could be your value. No one can tell you it's valuable or not. And I'm sharing my experience. But in my personal opinion, the certifications are very valuable, and I would really encourage you to get them. But the aim should be very much defined, very nicely defined, and you should not expect that if you do have a certificate that you will get the job. That's a misconception, which I also faced. Yes, then the mistake number two, I believed that I had to learn everything prior I would take the next step. And I think it also comes with the experience. So when you are young enough, and especially not that experienced in the field, in the domain, you tend to think that, in order for me to progress in my next ladder, career step, I need to learn this like so nicely. I need to know it from A to Z. I need to figure it out, this field. So I will give you an example. So I was very much afraid of taking the position in SOX. Prior, I was thinking that I would gain substantial experience in this. And sometimes it's better to get this experience from the job, because of course there is a narrative, there is a frame that you can learn, but the project differs from one to another. Even the most experienced professionals sometimes are getting lost in the projects because they never faced with these problems prior. So that's why, again, it's kind of imposter syndrome, that you think that I need to learn it. I need to learn it prior I can prove it. So there is no this self-confidence. And it is okay do not have 100% self-confidence if you don't learn something, because it's also a little bit weird, right? To be self-confident, to be so confident in the subject if you don't have anything, if you don't know anything about this. But the growth happened, and in my personal opinion, in my example, the growth happened when I take the challenge, which was above my knowledge, and then I grown myself and I had something to achieve. The opposite happened when I took something that was exactly the same level that I am, or even lower. Then you don't want to be the smarter person in the room. Trust me, you don't want to be that guy. And if you want, then you need to somehow reconsider your beliefs. So yeah, that's why think about this. Don't be afraid. Of course, don't be self-cautious. Evaluate appropriately, but don't think that you need to learn everything, because there is no such kind of KPI that will tell you you know everything. Even like this AI agents, they don't know everything. They are learning every day. We can learn from them, right? We can learn from them. Then the mistake number three, I believed that I had constantly proved myself at work, with my colleagues, with my peers, and especially with my supervisor. On one hand, it is very good. It's a very good feature. It's not a bug, it's a feature where I was thinking, okay, I really need to work hard to achieve this. I really need to deserve it. I really need to achieve it and prove myself. This is a very, very motivational point. But there is a point where it's turning towards you, and again, not towards you, but against you. It works in opposite direction. So you're trying to please the people around you. You are trying somehow, you're losing yourself. And what are the people who are motivating you? Look around. Those people, they have their own opinion. They are opinionated. They are not afraid to say something which is not maybe accepted by the other people. Of course, they're still being respected. Don't get me wrong. They are respecting people. They are not being toxic, but they can articulate their idea very clearly. And if you're trying constantly prove yourself, you are somehow losing yourself. And it's everyone can read it, especially your supervisor can read it, can understand it. You're basically, working your ass off just to get this, and your value would be automatically jeopardized. Don't get me wrong, you should work hard, but don't try to prove yourself constantly. If it is proving towards yourself that in the morning you're waking up and saying, oh, I want to prove that I will learn it, I will do this, I will achieve it, I will get this promotion, this is one thing. This is absolutely okay, because this is somehow the self-motivation. Then you're growing your self-confidence. You have a goal, you have a clear expectations, you have a clear roadmap. But if you're trying to prove yourself towards, especially your supervisor, your peers, this can turn into the toxicity, and then you could start losing your energy. The respected people, let's say, the respected professionals, they are not trying to prove themselves, but they are focused on solving problems and creating values. They're trying to focus on this, because while you are creating something good, you automatically proving yourself. Do you understand what I mean? It's a different mindset, it's a different perspective, but how big the outcome is. So you should remember that. Then the mistake number 4 is I believed I have to choose one professional identity. I am a woman of many different faces. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm not like like a wave, like here and there. I'm not. I was just trying for many years to put myself into the single box. Am I auditor? Okay, then what auditor I am? Am I a finance professional? Okay, maybe I am. Am I compliance manager? Am I a risk expert? But why I cannot be everything? Because I have so much to offer. I work for so many different industries. I am so diverse. And yes, some of the professional would argue with me and say, oh, you need to focus on one lane. But I was focusing on one lane. It is assurance professionals. And yes, I was moving from the third to the second, from the second to the third, from the first to the second. I know the business, and I was working in a different industries. A lot of people, they just made me realize that it is a disadvantage. And then I spent years to prove, and I'm still proving, that it is an advantage. And if you are interested in many different dimensions and you're also fusion professional, I think you shouldn't put yourself into the single box. You should understand what I like most. And I would like to be more with the business. I like the more finance or like marketing or IT. That's a one thing. But you can, within that domain, you can definitely be everything you want. You can do the analysis. You can be more operational. You can be more project management. So why not? And especially if you are young professional, it's very nice to try out yourself. And especially if you are already sustained professional as I am, you should not put yourself into the box. And trust me, I did it. So for so many years, I am still learning how not to do this. It is the biggest strength of mine that I can do pretty much everything. And of course, it's not that today I am, I don't know, making a scrapbooking, then tomorrow I am suing or I am becoming a lawyer. So it's not about this, because this is a loss of completely your professional identity. But again, just take the assurance professional. You can be in a different, you can be in compliance, you can be in a more with the risk, you can work in the finance organization, financial institution, you can work in a production, you can work in the healthcare system. So what's the problem? I think it will give you a bigger advantage and leverage for you and the skill set, apparently. Yes, then the last but not least, it's quite personal, but it's I was quite ashamed of my unconventional background. So coming from Central Asia, from the third world, right? Moving countries, changing industries, as I already mentioned in my previous point, taking this non-linear career, moving from one domain to another, it felt like a disadvantage. And I was ashamed about this. And coming back to the previous point, I was really, really not appreciating that. I was not seeing the value in this. And recently, one of my mentors told me that I know the East. I'm coming from the third world countries. I know how it works. I know the West. I work with Asia. I work with US. I work with Central Asia. I work in Europe. I live in Europe. It is an advantage that I can work in a different platforms and I can understand the cultural, it's kind of cultural map. This shouldn't be the shame that I'm having that background. It shouldn't be. So that's why it's very much important to understand who you are, what is your biggest asset, and do not appreciate. None of your experience should not be depreciated, especially where you're coming from, because it is your asset in your toolbox. How many people moved the countries? How many people had the different perspective? How many people touched the different cultures? How many people worked with the different industries? So think about this. I think everyone has got this kind of little pieces that you can combine together and create the biggest asset of yours. And it is very much important to appreciate that and remember this. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you will leave some comments and you would suggest me some of the topics that you would like to hear from me. And of course, you should subscribe my channel, my LinkedIn. I am super active there, writing quite interesting stuff from my experience, some news, industrial news, etc. And also, of course, my Instagram. I'm trying to develop it. So just sign in and let's stay connected. See you around.